Do these hearings matter for the share price?
I don't think they, well, I think they matter from the share price from one perspective, and that is a lot of investors view these types of hearings as kind of like close to the end of the process. I think shareholders, are generally inclined to get bullish. I think they'd like to get more certainty around when the MAX is actually going to be certified. But what these hearings essentially do is get a possible negative out of the way. And I think one of the things you saw today from these hearings was there wasn't anything incrementally negative. In other words, there's nothing incremental to what investors already knew.
Jim, you've continued to have a buy rating on the stock. Is that how you see it, especially given the fact that shares of Boeing are trading up 2% today?
Yeah, I think the most important thing that came out of the hearing today is that he didn't make it worse. The stock price reaction shows that he had a calm demeanor. He answered all their questions forthrightly. Certainly there is questions as to whether Boeing does have a safety culture. But as of now, they're going to be given the chance to bring this plane back out into service and to prove that they do have a safe plane. And I think the fact that the stock reacted today shows that things are not getting worse, at least.
Rich, the questions that focused around not just Boeing, but the intersection of Boeing and regulators and the FAA, and where, I guess, the maybe safety protocols, the lines have been blurred. Was that the most notable thing that came out of the testimony today? I
think clearly, if you look at what the senators were focused on and where it really resonated, it was on this relationship between the FAA and Boeing. And I think what you're going to see, we all know changes are coming, right? But I think a way we can sum this up is that the relationship has to be more antagonistic. The FAA has to do more to challenge Boeing, more to question Boeing, right? More, et cetera. And I think that was what we saw from several of the senators today who were zeroing in on this relationship with Boeing.
Stephen, where do you stand on this share price?
So I think, well, if you look at it, it's up 8% year to date. And if you would have put you in a confinement and said all these negative headlines and not told you what stock it was, you would think the stock would be cut in half or would be underwater. We haven't seen that. So I don't know how much of this is that there's only two major players in this arena and that there is a pseudo backstop on this stock. And maybe I'm hallucinating that, or maybe I'm making that up. But the bottom line is there is a duopoly. So I do believe that has been the underpinning in this name, and it has performed better than anyone would have thought otherwise.
So, Jim, to go back to the question that Wilf raised before, once we see return to service of the 737 MAX, once the worst of the crisis is actually out of the way and over, do you expect Dennis Muilenburg to continue to be in the CEO role? And if not, who would take over?
Yeah, I think that as long as the plane does come back out into service without undue delays past maybe January, as long as they can get the PR moving to convince the flying public that the plane's safe, get the FAA on board, get global regulators on board, start moving these planes, get all the logjam at their facilities out and start shipping again and start improving their finances, I think he has a good chance to retain his job. Obviously, mistakes were made, and they acknowledge that, but how they act going forward is what matters. And I think going forward, given the duopoly in industry, given the huge backlog of commercial orders that Boeing has, that they will return to the financial powerhouse that they once were.